Hi there, I'm Chris Knowles. Welcome to another Hexahedra devlog, and today I'm going to be covering the progress I've made with the game during September. So first of all, some of the freelancers I've been working with have delivered some very cool stuff. I've taken delivery of some music from James Elsey, the composer. I've taken delivery of the title theme and also the in-game music for the first factory type. If you saw the short trailer I released recently, I used an extract of the title theme for that. If not, it's on this channel, do go and check it out. The in-game track is a layered track, so there'll be between 1 and 4 layers of music playing, depending on how busy your factory is and whether or not it's actually currently running. And between all the different sort of layered versions, there's about 15 minutes of music there, and I'll play you some of it later on in this video. The concept artist, Anna Steiner, has also sent through some gorgeous artwork. First up, there's this amazing factory illustration that's behind me. In fact, let me just get out of the way so you can see it. I'll be using this as the key art for the Steam store and so on once that's ready to go. She's also delivered an illustration of 2 of the game's characters, Juliana Holterman and Dantar Khaledzadeh. Juliana is the head of Hexahedra Inc. itself, who you eventually get to work for after working your way up through other companies, and Dantar runs a rather ramshackle outfit that you start out in, so he'll be delivering a lot of the tutorial. While they've been doing that, I've been working on the game itself. Probably the most obvious visual thing that's changed recently is the way some of the animations work. So they used to just sit in their active positions, ready to do something to the cube, but now they move out of the way when they're not doing anything, which means that when we send cubes between workstations, they don't move through the devices. If you do trigger a device so that a cube collides with it, that fails the level, so getting them into the corners when they're not being used makes it clear when there's a collision about to happen. I've also added a lot more animations. The sorcerer and shipper now open their doors and deploy a conveyor belt to deliver or remove a cube. And their textures also change to indicate which source or target they're linked to with a number. And this includes a new type of shipper that simply throws away whatever cube you send it. And that won't be available in every level, but it does allow you to get rid of any bits of cubes that you don't want. The buffer now has its teleportation VFX fully integrated, with different versions depending on whether the cube is being teleported in or out. And it even works in the UI that shows what cubes have been stored. The panel adder and panel remover now extend their arms to move panels around. And the colour panel now also tilts towards the camera when it's inactive to make it easier to see what colour it is. Because they trigger right at the end of each step, the corner movement for the laser and the coloured panel happen late, at the start of the next step, and so if you trigger a laser or a coloured panel twice in a row, they stay put after the first activation, ready for next time. The big thing I'm currently working towards is getting a playable build ready for playtesting, and towards that end I wanted to put together a much harder puzzle than the one I've been using so far, and implementing that and solving it myself showed me lots of things I needed to improve about the game, and so I've made a start on those. So first, as a way of making the puzzle harder, there's now a randomised cube source that shows the odds of getting each cube type from the source, but doesn't tell you which one you're getting next. And to help with solving this harder puzzle, I've added a few new features. I've got a very basic save and load feature, so if you tweak your factory and don't like the changes, you can go back to the last saved version. And right now this is mostly useful as a debug feature for me, but I'll build on it in the future. I've made several improvements to the way you program workstations with commands. So interacting with a command track highlights it as the active track, and from then on you can simply click commands to add them to the track, which is easier than doing lots of dragging. I've also made the command tracks highlight any commands that will never be used because the logic flow doesn't go past them. So inaccessible commands are highlighted in red, and the system accounts for things like branching commands and track direction. There's also a new command that makes coordinating workstations much easier, called await cube, and this gets a workstation to pause until a cube arrives. And there are other commands planned that will add more advanced features, like getting a workstation to pause until the workstation next to it tells it to continue. And finally, I've added a time acceleration feature, so you can get the factory to run at double, quadruple or 8 times speed, so you can get to tricky parts of a solution quickly, or get the factory to run to completion much quicker. And you can also pause now. Going from harder puzzles to much easier ones, I've also started adding features for the tutorial. So a puzzle can now define which devices can be used to solve it, so that the very early levels can turn off most of the devices and introduce them over time, and the UI makes this clear. Plus there's now visual indication of devices that are fixed in place and can't be moved by the player. So let's take a closer look at the harder puzzle and how to solve it. I'll play the first 2 layers of the in-game soundtrack as we go. This is what you will hear in-game with a mid-size factory. The cube we need to ship has 4 wooden panels and also 2 metal panels on opposite sides that need to be painted red and blue. So we have an all-metal input cube, that's nice and simple, but the other source will give us either an all-wooden cube or one with a single metal panel on the bottom. The easiest way to tell the difference would probably be with the weigher, but that's not implemented yet, so for now we can use the fact that some of the sides are different colours so we can spot the difference with the laser. Now the first workstation here works out which type of wooden cube we've got by firing a laser at it, and then it either sends 4 wooden panels down or 4 wooden panels and 1 metal panel to the right after painting the metal panel blue. The spare wooden panels we just burn with the heater, although we could also use the recycler. Now the bottom workstation pulls apart an all-metal cube and then waits for a cube to arrive before adding metal panels, and we then send that complete cube over to the right to be painted and shipped. We need to use 2 workstations for that because it requires 6 devices and they won't quite all fit in one. The top right workstation is very similar. It pulls apart a metal cube, but then it only needs to add 1 metal panel and then paint it red. And so because we only need 1 spray painter, there's room for a shipper as well. Now if I switch over to show you the commands that power all of this, and we then set it running, we can watch the solution play out, and I think this is a good time to go all in on the soundtrack with all 4 layers. Boom, there we are, puzzle solved. There will be a lot more features I'll be adding over the coming weeks, all with the aim of pushing towards the playable build. You might have noticed in some of the clips that I've just started to add a tooltip system to help players understand what's going on, although it's not very informative yet, I'll admit that. I'll also be putting together a proper route into the game with a menu system and being able to play through a series of levels one after another rather than just the one. As ever, you'll be able to watch me develop the game live on Twitch as I go. I'll put a few links at the bottom. Do also like and subscribe to the channel for devlog updates. There's also a Discord server where you can come and chat with other future factory managers. And if you want to get your hands on the playable build when it's ready, then do sign up for the mailing list. But that's all the progress I've got to report so far. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.